player choice is an essential element of The Witcher 2. So here we are at the very beginning of the game, where we find Geralt being a personal guard of King Foltest, who is storming the gates of Lavalette Castle. Now let me tell you what set of skills Geralt has that even the king feels safer with the Witcher by his side. Even at the very beginning of the game, Geralt already has different kinds of attacks that make him effective both against large and small groups of enemies. Over time, as you progress throughout the game, you find more layers and more depth in the game's combat system. You can also unlock brand new skills and abilities like nice, spectacular finishing moves. It's also about how you choose to develop your character that will determine how Geralt fights in a game. Development, alchemy, sword, and magic. Alchemy allows you to prepare for combat. For example, you can brew potions that aid your perception, or make oils that enhance your weapons. There are more advanced uses of magical spells, which we call signs. With some of them, you can now engage multiple opponents at the same time. And if you decide to develop your magical character far enough, you will be able to unlock brand new 6 magical signs. Developing your character towards sword fighting can give you brand new possibilities and skills that you can unlock, like a riposte on the opponent. It requires some timing, but is deadly effective. And even at the end of the tree, there's a really cool looking and deadly effective group finisher, which allows you to eliminate up to 3 opponents at once. Obviously, the main weapons of Geralt are his 2 swords, steel one primarily for human opponents, and the silver one for monsters and magical creatures. But obviously there are other various weapons that you can find throughout the game, different clubs, different kinds of axes and hammers, and also there are ranged weapons that you can throw. Also, opponents come in many varieties in The Witcher 2. It's up to you what tactics you will use against them, but it will turn out that some of them might be resistant against certain types of elements, some others against certain types of weapons. And you always want to be extra careful fighting against monsters, because against them your sword might just not be enough. Fear not though, for this kinds of occasion you always will have items or traps that you can craft. And don't forget that you can create your own unique fighting styles with mixing up stances of your sword, magic, and items. Now imagine a situation where you throw a bomb into an entire group of enemies, it spreads out a flammable gas, and then you put an igni sign, which sets them on fire. Oh yeah, and in case you do not care about strategic combat in Witcher 2, you might just head on to the tavern and punch somebody straight in the face.
Peggy 18.
Welcome to the second gameplay video of The Witcher 2. Today we'd like to show you one of the most important elements of the game, the living world. A new day has just dawned. Port Flotsam is slowly waking up. For many, morning means leaving their homes and going to work. In the world of Witcher 2, you will see entire living communities. Every NPC you meet lives its own life. Here at the market, we can find a variety of merchants, their customers, gossiping women, and more. In the world of Witcher 2, everyone does something. The butcher cuts meat, the cook cooks, the fishermen catch fish, and repair the nets, and the dwarf blacksmith forges steel. These are not shallow, impersonal entities. The community is alive.
I've always preferred the wandering life. Meet new market.
Don't tell me you like
Not really, it's a shithole. But plenty of folk to beat up.
Another example of character depth could be an elf talking about a passion for shoes. Her words are far from empty. If you look inside her home, we will learn she has a large collection. What's more, NPCs do more than just stand around all day. Butcher take occasional breaks from his work. Some of the villagers might meet in the morning before heading to the forest in search of fruit.
The guild helps and protects, and accidents do happen. Fires are common enough in smithies, and a broken arm can make it very difficult to forge weapons.
The Witcher is also part of the community. This means, for example, if he breaks the law, he must face the consequences.
Please, no!
The villagers in The Witcher 2 may also react to the changes in the weather. For instance, when it rains, they look for shelter and may even start to complain. The best place to go when it's wet may be the local tavern. It's always full of life. You can gamble on a game of dice, arm wrestle, or take part in a fist-fighting tournament. You can also listen to the latest stories.
Ever heard of doing it Witcher and Striggett style?
No, tell me.
He downs a flat, tries to get it on, falls fast asleep, and she wakes up a virgin in the morning.
And of course, there's also times when friends prefer to gather out in the open. Naturally, as it gets dark, people start returning to their homes. During the night, guards patrol the streets. Places that were busy with work earlier are now empty while Flotsam is asleep. They can rest soundly until morning comes again, knowing that they are protected. As they drift into sleep, we have now seen a full day's cycle in the world of The Witcher 2. But this is just one location. There are many more.
The environments you're about to explore in The Witcher 2 create a truly rich RPG world. You might have already seen examples of how the communities you will visit are alive with activity. But that still leaves much more to see and experience. A wide range of distinctive locations and environments that comprise a cohesive and highly immersive world. Like every great fantasy saga, The Witcher 2 involves a journey that's both emotional and geographical. As he seeks to solve the mystery that threatens the northern kingdoms, Geralt will cross multiple realms, each with its own landscapes, architecture, and climate. In The Witcher 2, you'll experience numerous types of open locations, such as cities, fields, forests, and many different enclosed ones like taverns, caves, or dungeons. To halt players in the game world, every single place they can see has to look and feel exactly right. Everything has to fit its surroundings, every bush, every plant, and every single rock. So, for example, before placing the trees in a particular location, we considered things like the terrain, the humidity, and the sun and wind conditions, and only then we could choose the proper types and decide exactly how each one should look. It was also critical to think about appropriate places for the range of plants and herbs Geralt can gather to make potions and mixtures that aid him in combat. Similar demands arose for other locations like places of power and monster nests. Each one had to fit the area where it's found, as well as the gritty, dark feel of the world as a whole. Another important concern was to have an appropriate architectural style for each race in the world. To create the dwarven city of Bergen, for example, we looked at a number of different concepts, then put in a huge amount of work to translate the ones we chose into actual models and interiors. We believe we achieved exactly what we wanted. The dwarven structures reflect the race. Rough and tumble on the outside, but warm, friendly, and comfortable inside. The environments in The Witcher 2 are also dynamic. They change according to the time and the weather. What's more, these changes aren't just visual, they affect the world. People work and shop during the day, sleep at night, eat at meal times, and visit the tavern and play dice during their leisure time. When it rains, they take shelter and sometimes complain. Naturally wild areas away from civilization tend to be more dangerous. You're more likely to run into thugs, monsters, and other enemies. Certain places can change according to the choices you make and how they shift the storyline. You may not even see some locations until you decide to replay the game in a different way.